Welcome to the Militia gaming community. I'm Trigger, and this one is all about the 2016 BMW X6M in Need for Speed Heat. Let's go. Real quick before I get into the video, if you're looking for any of my builds, you can head to the website. It's militiagamingco.com. Both for Need for Speed Heat and Need for Speed Unbound, I've got builds linked right there on the build page, as well as you can submit your own builds for Need for Speed Unbound at the bottom of that page. All right, let's get into it. So this BMW X6 has 14 different engines. I mean, it's just ridiculous the number of engines that can fit in this car. Unfortunately for the car, only 2 of them are actually viable, and it's both of the forged engines, the fastest one being the 585 horsepower forged 4.7 liter V8, which is really counterintuitive because the other one offers a little bit more horsepower. It's strange, but this one ran better times. So on Arian, I was able to run a 307.2 and on Sonic a 253.6, and both of those times are just not great. I mean, anything over 3 on Arian is really in the slow category. So this car really isn't fast at all on the track, and it makes sense. This is a very heavy car. It should be much better in off-road. But let's go ahead and give you the full track build, and then we'll move on to drag. So the full track build is the 585 horsepower forged 4.7 liter V8, Ultimate Plus engine parts, Ultimate dual turbo, 5x3 pound NOS, Super Track suspension, Sport brakes, Elite race tires, Elite Plus clutch, Super Plus 6-speed gearbox, and the Super Track differential with NOS refills and duration. And then steering sensitivity is at +5, downforce is at -5, and traction control is off, drift style on brake. There's 2 keys to this build. The drift style on brake really helps with the cornering ability, and the sport brakes, although it doesn't seem like an upgrade, it really is, because it doesn't slow you down as much, and you need to grab a handful of brake in order to snap this car around turns. So sport brakes and brake to drift on this one. All right, moving on to the drag build. So for the drag build, it's again so bad. I mean, it's 127 out of 131 cars. It's got a 2.10 to 60 and a 9.33 quarter mile. It's just terrible. That being said, if you really want to use it in drag, here is my full build. Just screenshot it and let's move on. Alright, next up is the drift build. Now this is actually pretty viable. I used my all-wheel drive drift build for this one, and it performs decently. I mean, I averaged 80,880 points on the drift track that's right outside the racetrack there. And if you don't know how I do my drift testing, I usually run through it 2 or 3 times to just get warmed up, and then I record 3 runs, my top 3 runs after that, and average those 3 runs together, and it averages out to about 80,000. It's really actually decent for a car like this. It really shouldn't be drifting. It has no business drifting. It's an all-wheel drive SUV, but it does pretty well with this build. You can definitely use it. It is extremely controllable, and I find that to be the case with most of the all-wheel drive cars. So here is the full drift build. It's that same 585 horsepower forged engine, Ultimate Plus engine parts, Ultimate dual turbo, 5x3 pound NOS, Super Showcase suspension, Sport brakes, Elite drift tires, Elite Plus clutch, Super Plus 6-speed gearbox, Sport drift differential, NOS refills and duration, and then steering sensitivity at +5, downforce at -5, traction is off, and drift style is back on gas. The keys to the build are definitely the Showcase suspension, the Sport drift differential, and the Elite drift tires. You got to have those 3 parts, and then it helps a lot with the steering sensitivity at +5, downforce -5. So try that out. All right, lastly, let's take a look at the off-road build. This is where this car should shine. It's the reason it's in the game, is to be an off-road car. It is horrible on the track and for most racing. So I was actually excited to see how this thing did, and it's terrible. It's 88th out of 131 cars. It ran a 156 on HTV2 and a 220 on Rumble, and that is just garbage. I mean, it's really not good at all. I guess it's not as bad as it is on drag racing, but it's still so bad. It is just not viable in literally anything. Now, the car does have, like I said in the thumbnail, a hidden talent, and I'll show you that in just a second, but let's go over the off-road build. It is the same 585 horsepower forged engine, Ultimate Plus engine parts, dual turbo, 5x3 pound NOS, Super Rally suspension, Sport brakes, Elite off-road tires, Elite Plus clutch, Super Plus 6-speed gearbox, Super Rally differential, NOS refills and duration, and then steering sensitivity at 5, downforce at -5, traction is off, drift style is on gas. And now for the hidden talent. This thing jumps so far. I mean, it really does. It is a very good car to use for the jumps. Even if you don't have a lot of speed, it just has so much suspension travel that when it hits the ramp, it springs off of it, as you can see from this clip. I mean, it really just flies. Now, like I said, it doesn't have a lot of speed, so you're gonna have to use your NOS smartly, but this is definitely one of those cars you can use for all the jumps in the free roam areas. And with that, I'll end the video. I really appreciate everyone's support on this series. You guys have been amazing, and shout out to all the Heat 5 members of the channel. I will catch you on the next one. Trigger out.